Hello and welcome to Take You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I am your host, JP John Paz. Of course, joining me is the star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of the business, the Doctor of Desire himself, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
Couldn't be better today, John. Thank you very much for asking.
What is going on in the world of the JPWA?
Last week of class for the winter session, we have a graduation this Saturday, March 25th in La Follette, Tennessee, SPCW. So looking forward to that. Everybody's excited and ready to go.
Nice, very cool. Now,
Yeah.
kind of before we get into some other things, I wanted to ask you this last week, and I forgot to ask you, but have you seen that there's going to be gambling or possibly gambling with sports books on WWE and WWE Action? I don't know if you saw that or not.
I did. I did. I heard about it. And I don't know how you do that. I really don't. No matter how small the circle is. Hello, Jason.
Hello,
Uh,
Jason.
no matter how small the circle is of people you let in, there's too many variables. I think to bet. I mean, I got into a discussion with someone recently about football and being a work and stuff like that, and then I talked to someone else who said, that was somebody talking, as a rib. They were ribbing about that, but they were
Right.
talking like it wasn't a rib, and then people picked up on it and they went, well, yeah, because that would be, I think if football was fixed, we would have heard about that years ago. And that's something I don't think anybody could keep quiet. So same thing with the wrestling. Everybody knows wrestling is predetermined. It's been predetermined. So how do you? I don't know how you say, hey, this is the way it was supposed to end up, but it ends up somewhere else. And then what do you do? I mean, that just doesn't seem like it would. To me, it doesn't seem like it would work to everyone's satisfaction. So
With like road agents, hello Ibsen, how are you? With road agents and stuff though, and people working backstage, wouldn't they just like leak it to somebody or leak it to a friend?
yeah,
Hey, bet on
yeah.
this guy, he's winning.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, what do you mean? I didn't tell them that. It's well, thank you, Ibsen. I think they're all tickled pink. Be graduating, by the way. Um, okay, the King of Kingsport. I think he's excited to see the JP graduation for other reasons this Saturday. He's a sadistic son of a bitch sometimes, so he just wants to come out and watch. Yeah, I know what he's looking for. But anyway, I don't know how you do betting. I don't know, man, because you don't have. There's no way to. I don't know how you secure that. I mean, I don't know how you do it. First of all, I don't even know the first step, how it works.
What would you do? Like just call in the ring, or like only Triple H knows? He tells the referee during the match, and you call in the ring. That's the only way. I mean, I know that guys used to. Obviously, you would know that better than me, but I guess guys used to do it that way sometimes.
What? Call it in the ring?
Yeah, as far as the finish, yeah, like who's going over.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. The referee tells the guys, "Hey, we're switching to finish." It's happened to me twice that I know of that we had to switch to finish because the guy was hurt
Oh, right.
or
Okay.
uh, or something. So Ed Carbu Thomas, uh, Louisiana, he went to do something simple and he broke his ankle. He couldn't kick out, didn't want to kick out. And Ronnie West counted one, two. Hey, what are you doing over there on five popcorns? Okay, three. I got to count. You know what I mean? He gave him a long count, but it's like, holy smoke. I don't know. I don't know how you do it. Are they going to do this here in Atlantic City? Well, if it's betting, I guess it would have to be. Where would you bet? Like sports books and stuff like that. So it's all over the place.
Yeah, big sports book in Atlantic City. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that's what they're looking into and where they want to go. But to me, that's just crazy because it's like sometimes people know well in advance who's going over, who's not. Even the wrestlers will know. Obviously, Triple H knows, and guys in creative knows. Then you have a writing staff that probably knows. So it's a slippery slope for sure.
Yeah, I'm baffled half the time of what's happening these days. But um, it's a new culture. It's a different culture than I grew up with, and different culture than I grew up loving wrestling in. So Caesar Sportsbook is big. I think every place. So
Atlantic
it'd be
City's a
cool.
big one, yeah.
I think it would be cool to do it. I just don't know how you would do it, and I don't know how it would work. It could cause more problems than it's worth, but I don't think that's ever stopped anybody from doing something.
Barbara, hello. Sorry I'm late. Hope you're doing well, Dr.
Oh, you're
Tom.
not late, Barbara. We're just breaking in. We're not. We really haven't done a whole lot in the last 5 minutes. 5 minutes and 35 seconds. That is.
She's saying that she could have made a ton of money betting on the Body Donnas. Wow. Betting on them losing, maybe. I don't know about
Yes, betting on them losing. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Yes, or having the stupidest gimmick at the time. Yeah, go there
with
too.
with the gambling though, I mean, it to me, it's just like it's more trouble than what it's worth. Like what they could possibly or potentially get out of it is, I feel like there's more negative than positive.
I do too. I don't think anybody would. It would be beneath anybody to slip a finish out or let something out. I mean, it's done all the time, and sometimes they put red herrings out just to see who's telling what. And I've seen that happen before too. Been in a room with four other people, and information will be talked about, things will be talked about, and then it never comes to fruition. So nobody let it out. Therefore, those five people in the room could, I guess, theoretically be trusted with the information that's being talked about. So, but with betting, man, when you're putting money on something, it's totally different. And how much money? I mean, would there be a limit? Is there a limit on something like that? I mean,
Not sure.
yeah, right. So you'd have to think about all that stuff too, because I don't know how it would work.
Would the wrestlers be involved with insider trading if gambling was available? Yeah, right. I mean,
Well,
it's basically uh, the same thing to me.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I remember in Pulp Fiction when Bruce Willis gets paid off to do the dive, and then he knocks the guy out and kills him, and jumps out into the trash bin, and has the taxi waiting and all that stuff. So yeah, it could always be a double cross or inside trader, or up in Oregon, Elton Owen was a nice guy. He was Don Owen's brother, and they promoted Don promoted Portland up around that way, and then Don promoted the other towns with Sandy Bar. But Elton promoted the other ones with Sandy Bar, and Elton always wanted to see a shooter. You want to see the guys going to shoot, and he'd give the winner an extra $10 or yeah, I think it was extra $10. So if you were making 45 that night, you get 55. And then what we do is we just come back and split it, between the guys, 10 and 10. We just made an extra $10. That was a different culture, different time in the 80s. But Elton wasn't smart. I don't know if he wasn't smart or if he was just not paying attention. I don't know. But I think the wrestlers were certainly. I don't think that would change the working aspect of it. I really don't. But I think the wrestlers especially would have a fun time with it, regardless of what happened.
Ibsen saying he'd bet $1 million he'd be the head honchos of all the head trainers out there.
Huh. Well, you got Fit Finley. You got QT Marshall. You got Sin Bodie. You got a lot of great trainers out there, man. You got Rudy Gonzalez. I'm going to name my friend Les Thatcher. You got some good trainers out there, man. You got some really good guys. So I don't know. I think most of us say the same thing and get along and think the same way. So I don't think anybody would be the hit. And the Santino brothers have just reopened out here out in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
So they're good. They're a hell of a school.
He's going to bet Haku being the world champion if it was all a shoot fight. That's an interesting bet to take, for sure.
I've never actually seen Haku kill anybody or hurt anybody really bad, but I've heard enough to not want to see it. he's always been a great, nice guy, and he's one of those guys that I think respect is given, earned, and then got. So
Yes.
that goes with anybody, I believe.
From Chel Bayo, if your kids or close family members said to you they wanted to break into the business, how would you feel and what advice would you give them?
If you don't love this business at a young age, don't get into it because it's nothing but these days, especially, it's a whole different culture than I grew up. And I love the business from since day one. Since the first thing I can remember is professional wrestling, and these days it's not the same. I don't know why anybody would want to get into it other than just to be famous and be seen on the big screen. But there's so many things on the big screen that anybody can be famous. 15 minutes of fame, or on YouTube, or an influencer, all that stuff. It's not easy. It's a tough business, and it's show business, and it looks good on the outside. That nice chocolatey uh, frosting, but then you get inside that cake and it's not so sweet, sometimes. Um, so unless you really love it and dedicate yourself and really want to pursue it, and where you say nothing will hold you back. I mean, even if you have 102 temperature and you need to set up the ring, you don't want to be around people to make them sick, but at the same time, you can't be away. If you don't have that kind of feeling, then I don't know that this is a business. It could be wrong, but if they were my family member or someone broke in, I would say, don't do it unless you love it, and prove that you love it. How do you do that? We'll know when it comes.
Great question here. Great statement here from Ragu. Hoping Andy Kaufman turns up to accept his WWE Hall of Fame induction from the
I,
Overlord here. That's a great point. I hope so.
I saw something. I think it might have been this morning, or it might have been sometime yesterday. I don't recall. But somebody said it's ironic and not just a coincidence that Vince showed up with a mustache. I didn't see Vince with a mustache. Did you?
Yeah, I saw a picture circulating online. Yeah, it was weird.
Okay,
Weird.
so maybe
Yeah.
he's going to be what was Andy's alter ego?
Tony Clifton.
Tony Clifton. I wouldn't doubt for a minute that they'd pull off something like that at the induction. You know what I mean? That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I just saw an awesome picture today. George Napolitano, the great photographer, posted it. His son was being held by Classy Freddie Blassie, and Coffin was with them, and he had a mustache. So it was like hilarious. I don't know why, but he had a mustache.
Well, I don't know either, but could always be. I think they're gonna have something really nice planned. It's in Hollywood, so they can get away with anything, even if it's a hologram, even if it's something like that.
Yep.
I think
Hopefully,
it'd be
Jerry
awesome.
Lawler is in good health, enough to be there too. I hope.
Oh my God! You know what? I just assumed he was, and then again, I forgot about his health.
Yeah.
So
So Jimmy Hart, I mean, obviously should be there too, but
I
hopefully
agree.
Lawler.
I agree. Yeah.
Were you surprised to hear that he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, or no?
No, I was not. I thought Andy Kaufman deserved to be in the Hall of Fame for a long, long time, and even Cindy Lauper agree. I
Yep.
agree, but in Hollywood, you know, Andy was the guy on getting on the promo saying, "I'm from Hollywood. I'm the smart guy. Here, my brain's in here." That kind of stuff. So
He's from Hollywood. You get
he's
these
from
people away
Hollywood.
from me. I'm from Hollywood. Remember
That's
that
right.
was so
So
great. Yeah.
it makes sense, And Cindy wasn't from Hollywood. Cindy was from Connecticut or
Right.
somewhere up
No,
there,
no, Northeast. Yeah, that accent. Yeah.
northeast.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Yeah. But that was great though. Coffin. Don't touch me. I'm from Hollywood.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's why I think Hollywood's a perfect place for it.
Barbara wants to know: wasn't Killer Kowalski a trainer as well as
He
Dominic
was.
Canucci? Yes.
He
Yes.
was. Dominic was. Killer was, and both were very nice men. Both had a really great disposition when it came to teaching. And I think it all came down to they realized they can only do what they can do, and the rest is up to whoever wants to do this. We can't make you have passion. We can't make you want to do this. That's why if anybody asks me, even if you weren't from my family, what do you, my first question is, why do you want to do this? What's your purpose? I mean, what are you looking to travel? Are you looking to be famous, or what is it? I mean, to me, when I first saw it, it was really small in a TV studio, and it was just, it intrigued me for some reason. These guys were doing the things they were doing, and I I couldn't think of anything else. And nowadays, it's presented entirely different. It's got more bells and whistles and extravagant, and it should, no doubt, it should be uh, in a grand spectacle. It should look the part. It should be magnificent and make you want to do it and shine bright. But then you have to understand, you have to get this before you can get this. And a lot of people don't want to go through what you have to do to be great, or to at least accomplish your goal. You don't understand that there are dues to be paid, whether we call them that or not. There's still dues to be paid, no matter what you call them. Taking somebody to the airport, bringing them back, staying up till 3 a.m. until stuff needs to be done, getting up the next morning at 6. That's not a lot of sleep, if any. You know, there's things that people look at and say, "Oh shit, no, I can't do that. I got to get my sleep." Okay. In the process of being great, look and see how many things go into it. Just look at what it really takes. And Killer Kowalski, Dominic DeNucci, nice men, and they knew how to deliver the message for that day and age. But they also had people who respected the business in that day and age. When you came to a wrestling school, or when you broke in the 70s or the 80s, they checked you for respect, and the guys demanded respect. And that was something some guys got, some guys didn't. Some guys got drummed out of the dressing room. Some guys had their bags physically taken out and said, "No, you don't dress in here." So, new day, new culture, new business.
Murphy wants to know, Dr. Tom, would you please stay on Saturday and watch my match? Thank you for your expert opinion. Are you going to stay and watch Murphy's match?
I will watch Murphy's match anytime. I actually like Murphy, man. He's a pretty entertaining guy. He's bigger than he looks when you stand next to him. He's got a future ahead of him for sure. He's one of the matches I'm definitely staying to watch for. Well, of course, unless you're on last. That's a joke. He'll be on last. Okay.
That's pretty good, though, that you're going to be staying and watching Murphy's match, though. It says a lot for Murph.
Well, I've watched
here.
Murphy's matches before, though.
Nice.
Yes.
From Mike, thoughts on Conrad Thompson, the Alabama Dream? What are your thoughts on Connie?
I like Conrad. The Alabama Dream. I like Conrad. Conrad's a good man.
Great guy. I know him a little bit, obviously not very well, but I know him. I interviewed him a bunch of times, talked to him, off air, quote unquote. Great guy, nice guy. Always gives you advice. He's a smart guy. He knows the mortgage business very well. Knows the wrestling business very well. Very nice guy.
Very well. Yes, he does give you advice. I tried the nice guy.
Yes. Here's a good one for you from J Hood Radio. I'd like to talk to Tom, which we've talked about on the show before. Great angle here from Continental. He's saying it's one of his favorite angles of all time. How is that angle put together involving Gordon Soley?
That was when the Fullers had sold to David Woods in Montgomery, Alabama. Eddie Gilbert came in as the booker, and the Dirty White Boy and I had been working a program together for the Alabama title, and we were just kind of flip-flopping back and forth. And so Eddie had said to both Tony and I, come up with something for an angle for this thing. We can do something with it. What do you guys have in mind? So I thought about it, and I remember seeing Nick Bockwinkel back when I was a kid. This was one of the things that you see, and it never leaves your head. You just remember the image of it. There was a guy named the Hangman who was wrestling enhancement talent back then, and after the Hangman would beat the guy, he would usually put his noose around the guy's neck and fling him across the ring. Well, Hangman went to do this one time, and here comes young Nick Bockwinkel into the ring and saves this poor enhancement guy. And of course, as Nick's back is turned, the Hangman hits him with his noose, puts the noose around Nick's neck, and flips him back and forth. So I thought that looked pretty brutal. So what if we do a deal where Tony hangs me? Well, how are we going to do that? He's got the dirty white girl, so let's do this. How about the dirty white girl's going to beat me in this Alabama street fight we have, and she's going to put chloroform or spray the whatever it is, motor cleanser, or something for your engine that smells really bad, but people have to smell it at ringside. And I've got to actually breathe this in. We were going for reality here, pal.
Right.
Yeah. So it was a street fight. She comes in, puts it over my head. They beat me for the title. Next week, I come to the ring with my hair up under my hat, pull my hat out, knock the dirty white boy off with a 2x4, knock the dirty white boy out with a 2x4, then cut his hair. And then the next week, we come on TV and we do the angle. And so I thought that's good enough. And Eddie says, no, I need something else. So I said, okay, what if she comes out and she says she was hit, or not hit, but she was, white boy beat her up was the implication. I don't think she said she was hit. The implication, she had a black eye.
Yep.
Phony as hell looking black eye. What a dumb baby face I was.
Yes. Typical dumb baby face. Yep.
Typical idiot baby face. And I turned my back to him. I said, what if he handcuffs my hands behind my back? And so here's something a lot of people don't know. I think I may have told you on this. Randy Colley took the syringe, pulled that blood out of my arm, put it in a condom, and tied it, but it wasn't very tight. It was in the warm water, and a condom was supposed to be strong enough not to break anyway. And I was trying to bite it with my teeth and everything else as we're going down to the ring. We put it together. We didn't walk through it. We just told Gordon about it. We didn't rehearse things back then, but it was kind of put together like that. We just sat there one night and said, what about this? What about this? And what about this? And he said, okay, but I need something else here. Okay, what about this? Great, it's done. So that's how that was done.
Love it. Pretty controversial, pretty crazy. Almost got you kicked off TV, I would imagine. So crazy storyline you guys did. Very edgy.
Well, I guess for that time it was. But it was wrestling.
Going back to Andy Kaufman, Greg was saying some people think Adam Schiff is Andy Kaufman. A little conspiracy theory there. Yeah, I don't know if I've heard that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but there's a possibility there. I'll add to the conspiracy. Yes, Adam Schiff definitely looks like Andy Kaufman. That's on that geek there.
Barbara says, will Lawler introduce him? I don't know. Yeah, if Jerry's healthy enough to do it. I mean, he's a pretty tough guy, though, Jerry. He'll probably try to make it, but I don't know if he'll be healthy enough to do it.
Is Lawler still in Florida?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then it's just a week away. He may not, but maybe, hopefully, hope so.
Yeah, a week away on Fridays. The Hall of Fame will be right after SmackDown, so hopefully he could do it. Big Timers Club. I don't know what this means. I don't know. You're either cream team or you're not on the cream team.
Good point.
Good point. I don't know what it is, but he's right.
He's got a great point. His hair covers most of it, but we're good.
Ibsen is saying, the rub to be a trainer. What age did you actually start being a trainer?
Well, I mentioned before I went down with Tiger Conway Jr. to Tug Taylor's. Let me just say this. I did a seminar this weekend in Little Rock, Arkansas. And this man now told me he was there when I came down to Tug Taylor School with Tiger Conway Jr. and trained that night, because I'd mentioned it before. And so that was in the 80s, I think. And so I had to be in my mid 20s, late 20s, whatever it is. And then it's just one of those things where you don't know. You don't know if you can teach anybody or then get anything or not. It's all a process. I think it's all just finding out. I don't always connect with everybody, and I don't always get my point across, but I do my best to try. And those who get it, and those who don't won't. So there's a lot of places to train. I mentioned some earlier on, and go where you feel comfortable. That's how I kind of when I got the opportunity to train in WWE, I jumped at it because I was 36 at that time, and I knew I couldn't wrestle forever. So it's still a great time to stay in the ring, and I still enjoyed being in the ring, but I knew uh, that I wouldn't be wrestling forever. So
Yeah, I feel like you were very young, and I remember you were mentioning that Candido, they liked him to be a
yeah,
trainer too. It's like, wow, these guys are so young to be trainers for some reason. I don't know, maybe that they like that.
yeah, but you have to remember, man, in '96 I've been wrestling 16 years, and my body was beat up. My neck was beat up. I broke my collarbone twice, my ankle twice. So, I knew my position on the card. I knew where I was at. I was cool with that at that time. I'm cool with it now. Uh, and I realized it was a different avenue to go down, and it would probably last a little bit longer. So, and it did.
John G, why don't we have gimmicks like George the Animal Steel and the missing link anymore?
Because it's 2023. There's
Uh,
nobody that knows how to do that, and nobody knows how to be believable, and nobody knows how to get it where people care about them. George Steele was a gimmick, no doubt, and I'm sure everybody knew he wasn't crazy, crazy, but he didn't tell anybody he wasn't crazy, crazy. They just assumed, and they weren't sure because he never broke character in front of anybody. And the missing link was kind of the same way. He was a goof, and he'd hang out at nudist colonies and things like this. So that was his lifestyle. He wasn't a character. He was that missing link. He was a character, but he was Dewey Robertson. He was this great wrestler who found the gimmick and then kind of got lost in the gimmick, I think. And nobody knows how to get lost in it. I don't know if that's the healthiest thing in the world to do these days either, but nobody knows how to be a gimmick. I was always called the family gimmick, and I was fine with that. I was the gimmick in our family. I was the guy who was going to say and do weird shit, and I don't care because I like it. And that's why I got in wrestling, because I knew this was where I belong. And this is where a lot of it used to be, where wrestling was a place for an off-cast of society, for people who didn't belong anywhere else. Buddy Rogers, could you see Buddy Rogers later on in life? He became a real estate agent, but could you see Buddy Rogers anything but the Nature Boy? Could you see Ric Flair anything but the Nature Boy? Could you see Tully Blanchard? I mean, I see Tully now. I have a totally different outlook on Tully than I did when I first met Tully. But during that time of his life, he was Tully Blanchard. He was that guy that people love to hate. Um, so that's why there's no gimmicks anymore, because nobody knows how to be a gimmick. They want to get on social media and dispel any rumors that they might be a gimmick. And they want to tell you, hey, listen, we had a great match. I want to thank my opponent and all the Academy as well for recognizing my great match, that we worked so well the other night. Boy, that one spot really got us. Ha, 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 ha. The hell? They didn't have that back then. And I know it's 2023, and I know it's a different world. And that's why we don't have gimmicks anymore. So,
Hollywood guy, Mr. Pritchard, do you have any
take the
regrets?
T out of Pritchard and put it on your back at Pro Wrestling Tees. Sorry, Mr. Hollywood guy, $5.
Any regrets while you were wrestling? Anything you felt bad doing or missed the opportunity?
We all have, I'm sure. Yes, a lot of regrets. A lot of regrets in wrestling. But as I've got older, I've learned to come to accept that's life. We all do things that just we'll never do ever, ever, ever. And all of a sudden we wind up doing. So yeah, have a few regrets, but then again, too few to mention. Thank you very much.
Ragu saying Sidney Lauper should be in the Hall of Fame.
Sure. I
Barbara
agree.
saying don't forget that Andy was from Hollywood.
We did.
Tony, we loved to hate Andy. He was so good at getting under your skin. I totally
He
agree.
he was one of those guys. Talk about a gimmick, but those are the kind of gimmicks I loved because they made you feel uncomfortable. You weren't sure where they were going with it, and they stood the heat. They took the heat, and reading The Great Gatsby or taking your audience for for milk and cookies. Get on the buses and let's go for milk and cookies. What? Sit down and eat a bowl of ice cream. He got fired 3 times, I think, or twice, whatever it was. And then he finally got to do the act and he put it on YouTube. So, eating ice cream in front of an audience and then saying thank you very much and walk off stage. What kind of act is that? What kind of act is that? But I would exactly, I would be amazed and impressed. He had the
I was
balls
just
to do it.
I was just watching one thing with him, and he's like, "I don't know why you guys are laughing," and they're like kind of
Right,
chuckling, and he goes, "You guys are laughing when you're not supposed to be laughing,
right.
and then you're not laughing when you are supposed to." He's like, "I don't get you guys,"
And he
and like
walked off.
see, yeah, and then walks off, but the crowd gets so uncomfortable. It's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was the same thing when he was on David Letterman early morning, and he had the Vaseline, looked like he had snot under his nose, and he hadn't slept, and he hadn't brushed his teeth, and he hadn't showered, you could see it on TV. It oozed off the screen, and Dave was trying to say, "Hey, you want to wipe your right here?" People are eating breakfast, and
Yeah.
it's a morning show. People are eating breakfast, and
Yep.
maybe so he kind of wiped it off, and then he gets up and sits in the stool and starts saying, he met his wife at a club. She was a waitress, and now they're separated and divorced. And I need money. She's taking all my money, and he goes, and people are starting to throw change at him. Well, his manager is sitting in the crowd too, Shapiro or whoever, whatever his name was, I think it was, and he's he's the one who starts it, and they make sure they have somebody in the audience to start whatever he needs to start or whatever he wants to do. So it was well concocted, very well concocted.
He's the best.
I thought so.
Intergender champion. Yes, was an awesome gimmick.
Yeah.
Andy Kaufman definitely deserved the induction, says Randy. Totally agree.
Yep.
Blake, I want Zip in the Hall of Fame.
Blake, I want Zip to be 6 feet under.
I feel like Skip was better than Zip. I could be wrong on that, but yeah.
Skip was better than Zip.
Matty R, was Dr. Tom a fan of the TV show Taxi, of course?
Yes, I was.
Starring Andy Kaufman.
Yes, of course.
Good show.
Very good show.
I loved Christopher Lloyd on that show.
Yes, Christopher Lloyd, and then the counterpart to that would be Kramer on Seinfeld, I thought.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. So
Harley Race used to wash Happy Humphrey with a brush and a garden hose. Is that true?
yeah, that is true. And Harley wrote about it in his book. I think, again, a different culture, different place. That was when you had Freaks and Geeks and the McGuire twins and George the Blimp Harris and Happy Humphrey, Haystacks Calhoun, George Cannon, all those big blimp guys. They found their way into wrestling. Jack Pfeffer had a lot of freaks and geeks under his umbrella when he was promoting in the 40s and 50s. Paul Bosch was broke in by Jack Pfeffer. I always thought that was a fascinating, amazing fact that Jack Pfeffer, the gimmick guy, and then had to look back on all of Paul's cards. Paul was a gimmick guy. He brought in gimmicks all the time, but he also brought in Johnny Valentine, Wahoo McDaniel. Malenko was a gimmick guy. Jose Lothario was just this, rough, tough Mexican wrestler in Texas that was authentic enough to where people got behind him. Then you watch Jose's stuff and you see how clean and crisp it was during that time. But again, it was being presented differently. It was being sold differently. The people who came were different. A lot of those people who came every Friday night or whatever your wrestling night was, if you came every month or every week, you people saw you as a wrestling fan, and that wasn't always a kind compliment. Oh, you like that wrestling, that phony stuff, that fake stuff. Well, yeah, I do. And I tell you what, if you came and saw these guys fight and where we saw them, they were throwing some haymakers, man, and some of them connected. Some of them got their lips split, some of them got their eyes split, but some of those connected, and a lot more connected than didn't. It was a different pace. You couldn't do a Johnny Valentine 60 Minutes these days because John took a while to warm up, and everything he did meant something. So when Johnny Valentine hit you, he'd hit you with this big club, and it wouldn't be in the mouth, it wouldn't be in the nose, but it would be somewhere where you could see the mark and the welt come up on the guy's chest or on his back or wherever he got hit. And that's when they cared a lot more about authenticity than some might do today.
Did Prince Albert ever show up to your school, or does HBK and the WWE not allow him to show? Of course, Matt Bloom, that would be.
Matt Bloom, no, I don't know if they would not allow him to show. We've had Edge come by. We've had FTR. We've had, Sheamus, Beth Phoenix, Sasha, Natalya, Bailey, Natty. So I've already said Natalya, but Natty Neidhart. Sinbo D, who goes to the PC quite a lot. Rudy Gonzalez, who trained guys at Shawn Michaels School when it first started. No, I don't think anybody would allow or say you're not allowed to go. I think Matt's just been kind of busy in Orlando.
Speaking of Bailey, from Good Day, Bailey said that she suddenly got interested in becoming a wrestler and wasn't a fan before then, and recently complained that Lita and Trish are stealing the spotlight from the current roster. What do you think about Bailey?
Did she do that?
Well, on TV, that's her gimmick. She's a heel.
Oh, well, then that's her gimmick. I don't think she feels that way at all. I think she realizes what Trish and Lita have done for the women's division. I just from the small amount of time I've been around her, I don't believe that a bit. I believe she's working. That's what I believe.
Ultra Kami, I challenge AOC to a man's death match. Wow, that would be quite the match there. What is a man's death match?
I was going to say, as opposed to a
Texas death match?
Texas death match?
Chicago Street Festival? Yeah, that's weird. From Cat McLean, any good memories, of the Bomber Motel in Portland, Oregon?
All of them. The Bomber was like the Falcons Rest in Atlanta, one of the places where all the boys stayed. And the Bomber Motel was great for a young guy just starting out and wanted to experience everything there was to experience in Portland. And it was actually in Milwaukee. It was right outside of Portland. But great place, had a big B-52 bomber over these gas pumps. And then they had about I was in cabin number 2, but they had about 20 cabins, or maybe more, maybe 30, in a horseshoe like. And everybody was kind of, you could walk to everybody's door or cabin or whatever and visit and get a ride or do whatever you needed to do. It was a lot of fun. I loved Oregon. I really did. I love Portland. It's a lot of fun.
Do you ever get hassled, recognized in hotels or airports?
You know what? I got to tell you. this week, this weekend in Little Rock, a lady asked me. She said she was taking me to the airport, and she said, "Do you ever get recognized?" And I said, "No." So we got to the airport on Sunday to change my flight because we had a whole big mix-up. And one of the ladies said, who was helping me, this lady and her son came in with me. And they left me at the ticket counter while they went to go get coffee. So this lady's over here helping me. And we can't get this flight in because my flight from Little Rock will be delayed. Therefore, I get in Dallas an hour after my flight would have already taken off. So I either stay in Dallas or I stay in Little Rock. And I said, I'm going to stay in Little Rock because I'm going to go out with these people I hung out with all weekend. Well, she says to me, "Hey, maybe to take a load off your shoulders, has anybody ever told you you look like Sylvester Stallone?" No, no one's ever told me I look like Sylvester Stallone. Okay. So these her son and this woman who took me to the airport come over to the counter where I'm at. And I said, "Hey, would you tell her what you just said?" So she tells her and she laughs because she just asked me, have I ever been recognized? But no, now I've been called Sylvester Stallone, or I look like Sylvester Stallone. So she gives my ticket to a guy who comes over to help. As we're going through this process, the guy says to me, "Are you related to Bruce Prichard?" I said, "Now wait a minute. You've been helping for the last 20 minutes on my ticket, and you're just not coming up with this?" I said, "How do you know Bruce Prichard?" He said, "I'm a wrestling fan." I said, "Okay, cool." So he didn't know me, but he knew Bruce. And they were there for that too. And I said, "See, this is how it works."
Yeah,
So,
nice.
so that's how it was there, Murphy. It was, yeah.
I know
You look
Rhea
less.
Ripley, she was recently pissed off that people were asking her for autographs at the airport and stuff because they're not just fans. They're people that, like with Rey Mysterio, they want you to sign 17 items and they have it on a board and they got this and they got that. They don't just want a picture with you.
No,
They want 17 autographs.
yeah, it takes one guy to ruin it for the rest, or three or four to
Yep.
ruin it for everybody else. So, but nobody was bothering me and anything like that. These are the employees, and I was telling them, "Look, I haven't been on TV in over 30 years, and occasionally in Knoxville, occasionally, but you're talking old school Smoky Mountain fans." So
Con Cortez loves Bockwinkel and Bobby together. They were so good. And then just to follow up with that, I believe it was John Ramsey here. Dr. Tom, have you ever met or wrestled Nick Bockwinkel?
yes and yes, I got juice on Nick Bockwinkel. I was in San Antonio and had one of my nails came right across Nick's head, and he got frustrated. Not rightfully so, but as we were coming up from a hammer lock, and I somehow slipped and nailed him. So I wrestled Nick.
Jason, did Bob Zamuda ever come to Memphis with Kaufman during his TV appearances? I've actually interviewed Bob a few years ago, and yes, he did.
Bob was his manager who sat in the crowd, not the other guy, Bob Zamuda. Yes, yeah,
Bob, oh man, I think I might have mentioned this to you before. I interviewed him a few years ago. Awesome guest. The longest answer of all time on my show was like 22 minutes of an answer. I was
right.
like, holy shit. Just what a, like, you just let him roll. I mean, he's like, Andy obviously was great, but he's like a great comedic mind behind Andy that people don't realize. Great talker, hilarious, awesome, like comedy mind.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, again, you have to have somebody on your side to help you kind of pull this off. Sometimes you can't always do it alone. And Tony Clifton was played many times by Bob Zamuda. I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
that's great. That's awesome. I love stuff like that. I really do.
Hollywood guy says, which wrestler do you feel needed a bigger or better push in the WWE? Sorry about putting the T in your name before.
It's okay, Hollywood guy. $5. We'll get over it. I'll get over it, especially. Do I felt needed a bigger push in NWE, WWE? I don't know. If there's anybody that I felt needed a bigger push, I think everybody got the push, needed it, got it. You know, Luger got the push. A lot of people got the push, just couldn't push it where it needed to go. So I don't
I
know
know he
who.
I know somebody who had a bad attitude, but I would have given him a big push
Who's
in the
that?
mid '90s. Ludwig Borga. I would have gave him a huge push.
Oh, Ludwig.
But I know he
Yes.
had a bad attitude. But yes, I would have definitely given him a bigger push.
Well, not if you had a bad attitude, because the attitude all depends on, or the push all depends on the attitude. It really does. Nobody wants to be around a complete miserable jack off.
Jason wants to know, what does a yellow light mean? I'm not sure. What's he referencing there?
Caution, caution, caution.
Okay.
Sure.
Nice. Makes sense. Blake says, Dr. Tom, will you accept my LinkedIn connection?
Sure. I am so terrible right now on checking emails on anything, but Blake, send it to me.
Ragu, I would have switched the opponents in the WrestleMania women's title matches, meaning Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, Asuka versus Charlotte Flair. Instead, they have it reversed.
Well,
I would have rather seen Bianca versus Rhea Ripley too, because we saw Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley 3 years ago at WrestleMania.
right, but we don't know the reasons of going behind that either. Maybe they have something planned for Rio, and maybe it's not. Maybe they have something planned for Bianca, and they can't both do what they want to do. So they can do it with Charlotte, and they can do it with whoever. Who's Bianca working with?
Asuka.
Asuka. Okay,
Yes.
well, so there you go, and then maybe Rhea, and then maybe Bianca later. Who knows?
Yeah.
At some point, you have to say, okay, we're going to go with this, because everybody else will say, well, what if we go with this? Well, that's great, but maybe we'll go with this first. Yeah, but what if we go with this? Yeah, but we got to do this first because we want to build her bank account so we can take some out of here and put some over here. So I don't know.
From Randy Hawkins, Dr. Tom, do you know about classic wrestler, the Mormon Giant, aka Don Leo Jonathan? He was born where I live in Hurricane, Utah.
Yes, I do know about Don Leo Jonathan. He and brother Jonathan came to Houston a couple times, but it used to be the big match, I believe, up in Quebec between Andre and Don Leo. Don Leo Jonathan was a giant. He was at deep sea diving kind of guy too. I remember seeing those in the magazines and hearing about him, and then seeing him come to Houston with brother Jonathan, just a big guy.
Yeah, I always heard stories of the legend of Don Leo Jonathan. I don't see
Yes.
too much of him actual wrestling, but I believe you can find some of his stuff on YouTube, I believe.
You probably could. Is he in the WWE Hall of Fame? Do you know?
Oh, I don't think so. Maybe in like the
I
Legacy
thought
one.
he. Yeah, I think he
Have
might
to
have been
check
in the
that.
Legacy one. I do. I think he is in the Legacy.
Speaking of Portland, obviously we were talking about Portland or earlier. Did you know Playboy Buddy Rosewell, Billy Jack Haynes? Question mark.
Yes, and yes, I did. Buddy was a lot of fun. Billy was different back then, which I like different. And I recently saw Billy, God, maybe 3-4 years ago now. I think we talked about this before.
Yep.
At the arena. When was that? 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think it was 3 years ago now. Yeah.
Okay, 3 years ago I saw Billy there, and yeah, and he was Billy Jack, and I think he's gotten wiser over the years and understands what people expect from him now. Some guys talking about gimmicks earlier. Some guys just want full bore gimmick. I think Billy went full bore gimmick. With all the accusations with Vince and all the crazy stuff going on. And then I saw him at the arena, and he wasn't crazy. Well, he was crazy, but it was fun to talk to. And Buddy Rose was Buddy Rose was crazy. I like Buddy.
If we see Dr. Tom in the bar, what drinks would we send him?
Well, I'm not a yeah. I'll take that back. How about a Tito's with cranberry? Don't know what it is.
Okay. Yep.
Sure.
Hey, Phil is here. Hello, Phil. Hello to
Phil,
all.
outstanding.
Nice. Jason before was saying the yellow light caution Reverend Jim from Taxi.
Very nice. Okay, I can see that.
Taxi reference, nice.
Very nice.
Barbara wants to know, is Luger going into the WWE Hall of Fame? I don't know. I heard that was a rumor. He deserves it. He should go in.
Yeah, Luger definitely deserves being in the Hall of Fame. Should have been a while back.
This is a great question, and this kind of comes from last week as well. Why didn't Cloudy get a bigger push?
Well, I think it was after he came in and got Chris and I in front of Vince to say that we were going to quit if he wasn't brought on. We were going to quit right there. And so they wanted to give him a bigger push, and then he went in and said he had to get rid of us. And he was sick and tired of being next to us in our corner. So they said, well, we can't do without the BDs, so you have to go, Cloudy. And Cloudy was gone, and we were shortly out after that.
Poor Cloudy. What a legend.
Poor Cloudy. What a legend, yes.
Buddy Rose said he only weighed 216 pounds. Is that possible?
It's possible. It's possible.
216?
Sure.
Oh,
sure it is. Look at him. He's a svelte 215.
King of Kingsport, Bo James. Don't send Dr. Tom drinks. He will probably puke. Wow, is that true?
I don't believe that's true. I believe Bo James is telling stories.
What is Bo talking about there? What is he?
I have no. I have never puked in my life.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
How is that possible?
What's possible is done. What's impossible will be done, John.
All right.
That's how it's possible.
Wow.
You just do it. You don't do. You either do it or you don't. I mean, I look. People can say what they want, but the facts are the facts.
I wonder what Bo is really getting at there. That's interesting.
I think Bo just wants drinks sent his way. That's what I'm saying. And send him a daggum PBR and a shot of that cheap ass whiskey. He likes Boilermakers. PBR and whiskey. Randy Hawkins, $10. What's all this $5 and $10 stuff?
I don't know. This is getting crazy here. It says it feels like Cody Rhodes' current
might
push.
be the same person here. Hold on, I'm starting to figure something out. All right, here.
Yeah.
Good.
His current push feels like the Hogan push when I was a kid. Dr. Tom, would you agree? I feel like when I watched Hulk, my 6-year-old son, he loves Cody.
Well, maybe it is, but at the same time, Hulk came right in and was a different push. This is a push that has some authenticity to it, and I'm sure Hunter has a great deal to do with it too. Dusty Rhodes never won the big one in WWE. He won it in NWA. Yep. Cody's already won the NWA belt, so he can come in and win this belt too. I'm going to call it a belt, even though he's supposed to call it a championship or a title, but it's a belt. And he's going to come in, and hopefully he's got a great story to it. And no matter how you want to look at it, he's always going to be compared to his dad. I don't know about so much his brother, but it's going to be his dad. And, Cody and Dream had a different relationship than Dustin and Dream. But it's a great story. It's authentic as hell. It's going to be probably emotional as hell for him. And I can only imagine going into that match how he's feeling. And I can imagine how he's going to feel coming out. So it's going to be great. And I can see most of the kids are really loving Cody these days.
Yeah.
So we've got a 8-year-old friend who went to the last show in Knoxville, and Cody made him feel special. And my wife made sure to tell him that at Bruce's birthday, how special he made him feel. So doing a good job, man, but it's not a bad thing to be compared to the Hogan push, that's for sure.
Man, I feel like he's just been on fire. He's over with the adults too, but I was at a house show about 2 weeks ago. Man, his merch was selling like crazy. At the intermission, he had beaten Finn Balor in a very good match. And then in intermission, he went around ringside, I'd say for about 15, 20 minutes. And he was taking people's cameras and he was doing the selfies. Like people weren't, he was like, hey, come over here. So he was signing their autograph, taking selfies. I just like, that went a long way with me. I was like, wow, this guy's like the ultimate baby face here with this crowd. They were eating it up. They were loving him.
It doesn't take much to be that, It It really
Yeah.
doesn't, but it takes something to do it. It doesn't take much. I mean, just be that guy that they can reach out and talk to. Be that guy that is that guy. You know, Hogan for the longest time was that guy. He would go to the hospitals and see kids,
Yeah.
and he would shake hands with kids, and he knew where his position was and how his standing was. It's talking about the Ultimate Warrior a few weeks ago, and I said he was a jerk backstage. Not to me personally necessarily, but to people that really couldn't do anything for him, or it wasn't beneficial to him. But it just it doesn't take any extra effort to at least be nice when you
Right.
know your position on the card. If
Yep.
somebody wants to come over to say hello or say something, I mean, why can't you be nice? That was my point with the
And
Warriors. I got some kickback on that one too. I thought, oh
oh
geez,
yeah.
yeah,
But
I'm not.
Hogan, I've been to a bunch of signings with him. And man, people in wheelchairs, he'll come out where he's supposed to be seated and he'll come all the way around. He'll come
Yeah,
out after it's over. He tells them to stay afterwards, and he takes more pictures with them. He's the
yeah,
best. I mean, he's pretty genuine about it too. He's like a good guy. I've heard warrior stories like you've heard some bad ones with him and fans and him not giving two shits. I'm not saying that he wasn't, maybe he wasn't paying attention or whatever, but Hogan was very much paying attention to everybody.
yeah, and that was what it was back then. And these days, I don't know that it is. I don't know that there's anybody like that except from what I've seen with Cody and heard
Cody
about Cody. You know,
and
and
John Cena
he's
was like that. Yeah.
John Cena, and
Yep.
but Cody has won me over in what he's doing, how he's doing it. So, uh, I think it's going to be a great. I really do come to think we haven't talked about it, but I think it's going to be a great WrestleMania. I really do, and I think it's the main event's going to be off the charts, and the main event by I mean Cody and Roman Reigns. I really do.
Yep. Totally agree. I'm into it. I'm down. Barbara wants to know, how do we get the book? And Andy Kaufman went undefeated after reading it. Wow, I don't even know if he was
Alex,
aware of
yeah,
that, but
well,
maybe
that's
he is.
true. It is true. You can get that book at jpwrestlingacademy.com. Just hit the training tab up at the top, and that book will come up. That's jpwrestlingacademy.com. We also have our spring session coming up if you want to join and get 12 weeks of nothing but fun and relaxation.
Phil is rooting for Roman. Thank you to Jason. Thank you, everybody.
You know, I'm rooting for Roman, but I'm also rooting for Cody. And I think they're both going to put their heads together, and everybody's going to make this a great match for nothing else except to make that moment, that WrestleMania moment that WWE is so great at doing. Uh, they've got stories, they got the bloodline, they've got Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, his son, the American Nightmare. Coming to win the championship. What a better story. And the great thing about it is you really can't choose who's going to win. You know, it's got to be Cody. At the same time, Roman Reigns is ahead of the table.
Mm-hmm.
And he means it. He means it when he says it. And there's some strong feelings there, I think, on both sides.
Of course, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Two Man Power Trip. Check the website, tmptempire.com. You can follow Dr. Tom on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard. Go to Pro Wrestling Tees, ProWrestlingTees.com if this is the Dr. Tom store or the JPWA store. Dr. Tom, what else you got going on?
We got our last week. We got a big graduation coming on March 25th, this Saturday night. So anybody within the sound of my voice, if you're in the range of Knoxville or La Follette, Tennessee, come see us at the SPCW Sportatorium this Saturday night. Man, it should be great. Want to watch Murphy's match Saturday? I think the King of Kingsport's coming. I think we're gonna have some other special guests. So it'll be great.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for all your questions. Thank you, Dr. Tom. Thank you, everybody for listening. See you right back here next week for a little Take It to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. We'll see you next week, folks.